Hello and welcome to It Came from 20,000 Podcasts. I'm your host, Gus.
I'm Kaitlyn.
And we just watched a fantastic movie.
I hate you.
What did we watch?
We watched The Godmonster of Indian Flats, and I think I hated almost every minute of it, except for one buck-ass wild scene that came, I don't know how far into the fucking movie. We'll get to it, but it's clearly my favorite part because it's in all caps in my notes, and we had to pause so I could cry because I was laughing so hard.
So this movie is from 1973. It is a horror western movie.
Yeah, there's not a lot of horror westerns in this B-movie genre that I'm aware of, but let me tell you, it ain't no Valley of the Gwangi, that's for fucking sure.
I'll get to that one day.
I plan on that one. It's on my list, but I wanted to do that one next, but since we just did a horror western, I figured I'd pick a different one, which I'll tell you later, because I've definitely picked which one we're going to watch next.
Red Dead Undead Nightmare.
No. Okay, so this movie was directed and written by Frederick Hobbs.
And produced.
And was it produced by him too?
Yep.
Oh, damn. He did a terrible job. I mean...
The Bremson International Incorporated production. They presented this movie.
Yeah.
Never heard of them.
No, I haven't either. I'm assuming they only do, like, shitty... Just... like, my brain hurts. Like, my I don't have a headache, but it feels like my brain has shut off for the last hour and a half. It's like my frontal lobe has numbed. That's the only way.
I'm sorry for your lobe. Okay, so before we get into the movie, did you know anything about this movie before going in?
I had looked into it a little bit, but I had only read, like, the basic plot description on IMDb. You know how they'll give you, like, that little blurb? Mm-hmm. So I only knew that it was a monster in a Wild West town. The other thing I knew was I had decided to look up a little trivia beforehand like I do, and the only fun fact I could find was the fact that this monster movie, the monster, doesn't show up until 63 minutes into an 87-minute long movie. This is not a monster movie. How could you do this to me?
Because I thought it was.
I mean, it was, technically, but the horror starts at the end, and it's not at all scary. And the plot is just the same thing repeated over and over and over again, ad nauseum, to the point you want to just leave.
You hated this way more than I did.
I hated this so much. You have to remember, I'm more of a movie person than you in terms of, like, when I watch movies, I very much analyze movies and everything else. You're more of, like, the production side of things. Yeah. I'm more of the story side of things, and I just... Oh, boy.
The only knowledge I had of this one was similar to The Killer Shrews, was it was on that same countdown of that Ashens on YouTube did way back in like 8-9 years ago of top 5 crap movie monsters.
Oh, man.
And this was on there.
I fucking wonder why. This was one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my goddamn life, and I've seen some stinkers.
Was it worse than Ghost Rider 2?
I haven't seen Ghost Rider 2 in years, and I do have it on DVD because you bought it for me for Easter, I think.
Yep, and the first Ghost Rider.
And the first Ghost Rider, that's right.
And something else. Footloose, I bought you Footloose. It was at Five Below.
Yeah, that's true. And so I haven't watched Ghost Rider 2 in a long time, and the only scene I can remember is that one, actually the two scenes I can remember are the one where he pees fire, and the one where he just spins.
We saw that movie in theaters.
That's all I remember about it. Boy, howdy, that was a bad movie, too. This might be worse because at least that movie had some good visuals. As I have here, the film quality and the sound are horrible. We had to pause multiple times for multiple reasons, including people spouting exposition so quickly that you had to pause in order to process what they said.
There's a lot of exposition dumps in this movie.
As well as just the sound being so bad that I couldn't understand people's names at times. I had a lady, I thought her name was Madame Oliver. It was Madame Alta. At some point I was typing Madame whatever.
Madame Other.
Yeah. Couldn't understand people's names. It was a fucking time, man.
Shall we jump into it?
Yeah, so we get the credits come. It's that vaguely Western text that you see in every Western movie. We have a sweeping mountain shot, an angelic choir. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like
that's the only time there's choir music in the whole movie.
It is. Yeah. And then just the loudest sheep buying you have ever heard in a film.
It was almost a jump scare.
Almost.
For how quickly it cut to.
And one of the baas sounded like a man just going bah, into the microphone, while the rest of them sounded like actual sheep, and it was really weird.
Yeah.
And I had to put it in. So we meet is he the main character, or is he just a character?
Who is the main character?
Is it Barnstable, or also, as I call him, Barnstable?
It might be Barnstable.
Because his name is Barnstable. 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 But it's all one word, and I hadn't seen the movie yet, but I had read his name, so I thought it was Barnstable. So I'm going to call him Barnstable through this whole thing instead of Barnstable, because why not? But yeah, we see this. He's not the main character, but he's in the movie, all right.
This movie, now that you mention it, has the same problem that The Phantom Menace does of we don't know who the main character is.
We really don't. Like, is it Clemens? Is it Charles? Is it Barnstable? Is it Philip?
Was it Obi-Wan? Was it Qui? Was it Anakin? Was
it Jar Jar?
No. Is it Padme? Yeah. The same kind of thing is there's a lot of characters in this movie.
There's a lot of characters, and only one of them, and maybe two of them, end up mattering by the end of the film. But, so we get this guy, whose name we don't know, and he's wearing this sweet sheep vest with a matching cream cowboy hat. He's loading some sheep up into a truck. That's all he's doing.
He's riding in the back of a sheep truck.
Yeah.
And he gets dropped off at Reno.
Yeah, we're in Reno, Nevada. And by the way, this movie is an enigma because it does take place in 1973, but not... It's really strange. We'll get to it when we get to the town. But it is in 1973. So he gets into Reno, and he's, like, strutting his stuff downtown. By the way, he looks like a cowboy.
Very much.
Very much so.
I called him Sheep Boy before we found his name.
I called him Sweet Sheep Vest Man.
Well, instead of a cow, it's a sheep.
Yeah. So he goes into this casino that's, like, Wild West theme called the Prima Donna.
Yep.
Okay. So there were a couple things I noticed. One, it had the worst creepy music of all time. And it was empty in the middle of the day.
It was empty in the middle of the day, and the strip outside was completely full of people.
Yeah.
Also, when he walks up to the casino, we have all the music and hustle and bustle outside. Mm-hmm. We go inside the casino. We can still hear some of that stuff. Then it just hard cut. The outside noise stops, and just the creepy theremin music starts playing.
Right. It's like this creepy theremin music, and the whole place is empty in the middle of the day. He walks up, he puts $1 into the slot machine, plays slots, wins $200, and then suddenly in the background there are now people.
Yep.
There were no people when he walked through. Not literally, not like, oh, there's only a couple people. No, we're talking there was no one.
There was rows and rows of empty slot machines.
But then as soon as it shows, like, he wins the money, and it shows us behind him again, there are now people wearing modern clothing.
Yeah.
But he looks like a cowboy. And
modern for 70s times.
Right, modern for the 1970s. You know what I mean.
Also, when he won the $200 from the slot machine, all the things go. Hard cut, it was spinning, and then just hard cut to all three slots showing $200. This movie has a terrible problem with the hard cuts. I will get into that later.
So, this lady walks up to him and just hands him a sack of money.
It was like, it was a big dollar sign away from being like a cartoon robber.
Yeah, and that's like his $200 that he won is like a sack of money.
We get a montage of people winning big in Reno.
Yeah, and he walks up to the bar to like get a drink, and everyone there is dressed like in the Wild West, including a dude that clearly is a patron and doesn't work there, that has a big Tom Selleck mustache.
He did, yeah. This is where I also get the first line of the movie about 3 minutes in of, "We got a winner," from some random casino lady who we never see again.
Also, ding, 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 sexism.
Yep.
So we are 3 minutes, 40 seconds into this movie, which is a new record across 2 episodes.
Oh, I had it at 3:30.
Oh, maybe it was 3:30 and I wrote it down wrong. But this guy, Tom Selleck fucking band, says, it's the golden hour for drinking, banjo, and starry-eyed broads.
Starry-eyed broads looking for a good time.
That was it. I missed that last part.
My autocorrect changed it to starry-eyed braids.
I missed that last part because I was screaming about the fact that we had sexism so quickly. So, Mustache Man and Vest Dude, because we still don't know Vest Dude's name, They drive up to the mountains with some ladies.
Yep. This is also the point during this montage is when we get the rest of the opening credits. Like we had the production company and the name of the movie. This is where we get all the actors and director, producer.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But they're talking about how they're driving out to this gold mine town. Did you notice how much money he said came out of the ground?
I missed that part.
So he said that in this time when there was a gold rush and how the town was formed was billions of dollars of gold a month came out of the ground, and that the town was wishing for the old days.
So we also get some exposition here as they're driving that these mountains were used a lot during the Civil War.
Yep.
And there was a lot of miners, a lot of mining folk.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Like,
mines,
that's where all the money came from. That's where this town came from. Yeah. And then, so then, like, this banjo trio just kind of starts playing in the background, and they go into the Union Brewery Saloon, and everything is Old West themed. And when I say Old West themed, we're just in the Old West now, because the town is preserved to look exactly like the Old West and run like the Old West. They're preserving the town.
Living in the past ain't so bad when you think about it, said Tom Selleck guy.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but when it cut to that piano player, he had some sweet Ray-Bans on, and I made a note about it because they were the most modern fucking Ray-Ban sunglasses.
I just caught that the piano player was having a good time, and at a couple of points, there was just the piano music, but we still cut to the banjo players playing their banjos, even though there's no banjo music.
Oh, yeah, we did, didn't we? But yeah.
Instrument editing gets me. Wayne's World, come on. I love that movie, but it's terrible with the editing sometimes.
Oh, yeah. School of Rock is similar.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so because at this point, we don't actually know that the town is supposed to look Old West, like, specifically. So it's an Old West saloon, so they're supposed to look like they're in an Old West saloon. But we think maybe it's a theme bar. We don't realize it's a theme town yet. So
it's like a Disney World area.
Right. So
there's also a dog.
Yeah. So Eddie, our we still don't know his name. Sweet vest man.
Sheep boy.
Sheep boy. Sits down at the bar, and this saloon woman, Wendy, just reaches into his pocket and just takes his money.
Yeah, just takes some of his winnings from the casino.
Yeah, and then he reaches into his pocket to pay the bartender for his bill because he orders a drink, and he pulls his empty pocket out of his pants like a cartoon when they're like, I don't have any money.
You just need a little moth to fly out of it.
Yeah. The sheriff shows up, and he's like, boy, we don't tolerate anarchy around here.
Yep.
And then they get into a fist fight.
Yeah, there's a couple of punches thrown. He's also Sheep Boy has also stopped by another sheriff who I didn't know his name for a long time. His name is Gordon. I call him Sheriff Sideburns.
Was that his name? I just kept calling him the sheriff.
No, there's a couple of sheriffs. So there's Sheriff Sideburns, who's Gordon, and then the other sheriff who's like, we don't tolerate anarchy, and that's
God, yeah. Well, I'm guessing I think Moldov is like the deputy, and then Sideburns is the sheriff, but they're not super clear about it.
It kind of feels like everyone's a sheriff.
Yeah, it's when I tell you this movie is the most confusing movie I've seen in a long time, I mean that. And it's not like intentional, like say Donnie Darko, where that movie was intentionally confusing and odd. This just doesn't make any sense, and there's so many people that it's hard to keep straight, and I was really confused trying to take notes. We were pausing to take notes, and we're still really confused at times because it just made no sense. Also, the cat's playing with a toy behind me. Sorry if you can hear him. He's in
a mood right now.
He's the loudest cat on earth sometimes.
If you hear any weird stops and starts in editing, that's because one of us is going to go stop him from jumping on the counter. He
just likes to climb everything. Just everything. So anyway, they get into.
I still love him though. He's very good. He's a good little boy.
He's a good little boy. They get into a fist fight, which is not really a fist fight, and then it's nighttime. What does nighttime look like?
Well, Sheep Boy gets kicked out of the bar. We immediately cut to a car at nighttime. Nighttime is just a goddamn blue filter shot put over the daytime.
And you can clearly see the sun at points, so you know this is true. And in the 50s, 60s, 70s, that whole era, that was really common because you couldn't shoot at night because they didn't have the equipment. So you would just blue filter the day, but it's so hard to see what's happening when they do that. It's awful. So it's clearly nighttime. It's real blue. And sweet sheep vest man hitches a ride with an anthropologist from Reno.
We also just cut to this. He got thrown out of the bar, and then he's just in this car. We find out what happens later, but he's just in the car with some dude.
Yeah.
I thought it was a completely different person until I saw the vest.
Yeah, Professor...
Dr. Clemens.
Clemens. I just wrote, like, the doctor the whole time because there were so many people flashing by all the time that I was just typing them out as fast as I could and didn't get their names in all the time. So I'm just going to call him, like, the doctor or the professor. He's the only one. You'll know who I'm talking about. This is where we find out that our sweet vest man's name is Eddie and that he grew up on a sheep farm and he wanted to go to the university in Reno, but he was too poor.
He's drunk. He's drinking from a hip flask.
Oh, yeah, he is. He's, he's just drinking in this car. If they got pulled over, they'd be toast.
So Dr. Clemens is giving him a ride. We find out later that he found him back outside the bar.
Yeah, we find this out later in
alley.
a conversation.
So he takes him back to his sheep farm, drops him off.
So
says we'll see him around. Okay.
So Eddie's really drunk, and instead of going inside the house that we clearly never see...
Yeah, we don't.
We don't see his house. We just watch him climb into his, like, sheep pen, and he's just like, I know. He just keeps saying I know and, like, slapping at the sheep to move him out of the way.
He's just cutting through the sheep, telling to piss off, get out of the way, I'm coming through. The sheep want nothing to do with this guy.
Yeah, so he sits down in the barn.
This is where I had my first theory of the monster of this movie, is I thought Eddie was going to turn into some sort of sheep werewolf.
No. So Eddie, like, he leans in against the bar, but he lays down in the barn. I can speak.
Barnstable?
The barn stable. Yeah. And he looks around, and all of a sudden, there's just, like, a light and some... Was it bats? What was that?
It was bats or birds. Like, everything goes orange.
Yeah.
Did he fall asleep, or did this just start happening?
It just kind of started happening. Like, he just looks up, and he covers his eyes, and there's a bright light, and there's, like, bats flying over his head.
There's, like, theremin music playing.
And then the sheep just stampede. And it looks like they are stampeding into the barn, but we don't really know because they're just stampeding into nothing. It's just cutting to them stampeding.
Yeah. And you can tell it's a completely different shot. Like, it's bright light outs. Like, they don't even bother trying to make it look like night.
And Eddie's just kind of, like, whipping his head around like a woman in, like, a 1950s horror movie where they throw their hand over their head and they're like, oh, no. He's doing, like, that. And there's this weird, like, how would you describe the sound that whatever this is making?
I don't remember.
It's like, or something like that.
And it looks like some sheep are getting attacked, like they're being thrown around or something.
And he, like, pulls his hat over his face. And then the only way I could describe this is it looks like someone is lifting the sheep up so that way they're floating in the air, like, above this light, because their legs are out in front of them. Like, you know how when you, like, pick up a dog underneath its, like, arms and they put their legs out?
Like armpit?
Yeah, like their armpits. That's kind of what it looks like for some reason.
Do dogs have armpits?
Yeah, they have armpits.
They don't have arms. They just have legs. Are they leg pits?
Sure, why not? I mean, I'll call them armpits. Why not? Okay.
So we get all this weird stuff. I thought aliens were abducting or something. We then get another hard-ass cut to the next day. Just some people driving.
And we get, this is where Dr. Clemens is driving, and he's got a woman in the car, and we don't realize that her name is Mariposa, because I think he says her name, but we didn't really catch it, because he says it so quickly. And again, we're having an exposition dump here, where we're learning about the Silverdale 601 secret society that apparently runs the town, and is trying to preserve the town into like the Wild West. So everybody is not allowed to drive cars. They all have to ride horses. They have to dress in like the Wild West style.
Yeah.
Basically, think like, I almost called it like a Wild West cult town in the middle of 1973 near Reno.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe it.
We don't know how far it is outside of Reno.
We know
there's a montage, so it's probably at least 45-minute drive.
Maybe. We know it can't be too far because more than once they mention, like, oh, we need to go to Reno, but it's like a little too far to drive today.
I think it's about an hour.
Probably. So. It's clearly up in the mountains away from Reno, so maybe an hour. It's not so far that they can't go, but it's far enough that, like, it's a drive, so you have to, like, plan to go.
And this is Silverdale County, which is home to Indian Flats.
Yeah, so they go to find Eddie, and this is where Dr. Clemens talks about, like, I found him in the back alley behind the bar. I decided to take him home, figured I'd check up on him because he was real drunk.
Yeah.
And Mariposa just immediately, like, jumps, just like, Eddie, Eddie. She's just, like, screaming his name.
She said Eddie the exact same way twice in a row.
Yes, she did. I think it was just repeated.
Yeah, we look around, can't find Eddie. He's not, knock at the door, he's not there.
Fucking sheep will not shut the hell up this whole time. Meh.
So they search the barn, and then we get a jump scare.
We get a jump scare because Eddie jumps up from the hay and just screams. But it's like the weirdest woeful scream. And Dr. Clemens is like, he's in shock. We have to take him to our lab so he can recover from what he's seen. And then we cut to some, like, flesh on the ground that's, like, pulsating.
It's a weird blob. I thought it was a dead sheep at first.
That's what it kind of looked like. It looked like maybe a sheep that had been, for a lack of a better term, turned inside out.
Yeah.
I know that's really gross, but that's the only way I can kind of describe it. And it's like, he's like, it's a half-formed embryo that's alive outside of the sheep. Let's take it for research.
This thing was also, it was big.
It was huge. Like, this would not be an embryo. This was the size probably of a smaller sheep. Maybe not like a lamb, but like an adolescent sheep. Not a full
later on,
one.
they say it's like, I mean, it's grown a little bit, but they say it was still like 40, like just under 50 pounds.
Yeah, so this thing's huge, but they're calling it an embryo.
Put in my notes that the embryo looks like the gotcha pork roast from Food Wars if it's left out on the counter for a few days.
I guess so. We also find out that we are in the greatest named place of all time. The name of the mountain is Mount Sugarloaf, Nevada, and I meant to look up if this was a real place.
My little sugarloaf.
Oh, God, no, never, ever. I'm going to look this up, like, right now in real time if this is a real place, because, wow.
While she's looking that up,
Oh, okay, hang on here.
I don't have much time to but anyway, they get Eddie, they take the embryo, and they take Eddie to a research center out in Indian Flats.
Okay, so there is actually a Sugarloaf Mountain, or Mount Sugarloaf, but it's actually in Massachusetts.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Sorry, my computer is really, really fast because I bought a really expensive computer, so it doesn't take me long to look shit up. So then we're in Mount Sugarloaf, and then we hard cut again to this guy looking down on the town, right?
He's looking through a telescope from his big old house.
Okay, and this is where we meet Philip and Charles, also known as Charles. What was his last one? Charles Silverdale.
Yep.
He basically owns the town. That's the only way to describe it. He's not like the mayor. He owns the town.
Yep, that's where the Silverdale Society comes in. That's where Silverdale County comes in. It's a family legacy kind of thing.
Right, and Philip is like his right-hand man. But he's looking down on this town, and he's like looking in on this telescope at the town, and he is looking at some tourists like a dad that hates kids on his lawn.
They always come like locusts, he said.
Yeah, but they're also the lifeblood of the town. That's how the town makes money, but he still hates them. And the only thing I can think of is because they're modern people in his perfect Wild West society. That's the only reason I can think that he hates them so much.
Yeah.
But so then he's looking down, and then he looks back after he talks to Philip for a minute about some shit.
Philip Moldove.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because I just have him as Moldove through the rest of
I
this.
have Philip as I didn't catch his last name. I just caught his first name. But he looks back down on the town, and they start talking about this woman. And they never say they're prostitutes, but they say they're prostitutes. Yeah. It's insinuated that they are prostitutes that work at this Wild West saloon in order to keep the town authentic. Because they mention that, like, well, why don't we move her down to the valley so that way they're not a stain on the town? And Charles is like, no, because we have to keep the town authentic, and they pull in a lot of money, if you know what I mean.
Sell their butts for money.
Yeah, they sell. Everybody got a butt?
Yep.
Okay. So This is where I found out that the lady's name, by the way, in the car was Mariposa. I wrote that in.
So we get the doctor, Mariposa, and Eddie are driving back to the research center with the embryo.
Did you notice how fucking weird this building looked, by the way?
Yeah, it was...
It was like strangely half modern, half bunker.
It looked kind of like it wasn't finished.
It looked like this unfinished lab bunker made of stone, and it was the
It looked like it was made of stone steel girders, if that makes sense. Like the steel girders, but they were made of stone.
Stone, yeah.
It was half built.
It's the strangest building I've ever seen in a movie, and I just had to write it in because it looked so wild.
For some reason, it made me think of the castle from Reign of Fire. I don't know why.
I don't know why it would. It looks nothing like that.
I think it was just that it had like a path coming up to it.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't know. That's what I have in my notes, and it was just like...
Also, this sheep embryo is making the most wild,
it is just
creepy noises
shrieking
the whole time. So they go into this lab, and it is the most low-budget ass lab I've ever seen. We've just got like some posters of like the human body on the wall. There's a glass hutch of rabbits for some reason in the background, like just hopping around doing their thing.
Test tubes and beakers and...
But it's really dark. You can't tell what you're looking at any one point in time. They probably did that on purpose because it was low budget and looked nothing like a science lab.
It's not going to die, Doc. It can't die, Eddie says. And all three of these people are very dead set on making sure that this embryo stays alive.
Well, because the doctor is trying to prove whatever the hell cellular realignment is. He mentions that. He mentions that's why he needs the monster. He then never explains what cellular realignment is, which bothers me because in these movies...
Pseudoscience.
We know we have pseudoscience. We have a ton of it. But I like when they at least try to explain it so that way I can kind of like get an idea of like, okay, fucking whatever.
Yeah.
When you just say something like that... You lose me because it's like, well, what does that mean?
It means he's a cellular chiropractor.
Right, sure. So he needs this embryo to prove his theory because they found some dinosaur fossils in the mine that they need to keep a secret.
Yeah, I guess. So they put the embryo, they have this big box for it. They bring it into the box. They give it some oxygen.
It's like an incubator. It's just
that's the word I was looking for.
It's
incubator.
a big fancy like infant incubator, if you know what I'm talking about, but it's the exact same thing.
I don't know if I'd call it fancy, but...
Well, it was not fancy, but it was really big. Yeah. So think of an infant incubator, but a lot bigger. That's all this thing was.
Yeah. So Dr. Clemens, he's getting very intense with Eddie. Very intense eye contact. It feels like he's hiding something.
Yeah, but we never find out what that is. He's just like... pissed off at Eddie for no reason here. Eddie has literally done nothing wrong. He's done nothing but help them since he got drunk. Like, he helps wheel this thing in there. Like, he and Mariposa, like, help hook it up. And he's just like...
They did accidentally drop the box when they came in.
Oh, that's fair. He did do that.
So maybe he's mad about it. This dude's just... He's intense.
He's very intense for no reason. So then we hard cut back to the mansion.
I will say, this is one of the few times I actually have a decent transition.
Yeah.
Because even though it's a hard cut, we go from an embryo to an egg.
Right.
Having a hard-boiled egg at breakfast, I actually didn't mind that.
No, that cut's fine. It's just another hard cut.
Yeah.
Because, we go from, like, the embryo where we're looking at it in the box, and then we hard cut to them cracking, like, a soft-boiled egg. Yeah. It actually wasn't a terrible transition. So, this is where we meet our boy, as I'm going to call him, Barnstable. And he... is trying to buy the town mines. He's trying to lease them. We don't know why yet. We don't know about the company he works for yet. But he wants to get the mines.
He's having brunch with Mr. Silverdale up at his mansion, which is called the Comstock.
Right, Comstock. And Charles, or as Mr. Silver fucking whatever, I would have noticed it's Charles the whole time, talks about how he will not lease the mines to Barnstable.
Not for $7 million, not for $10 million.
And he then talks about the Comstock, and he's like, did you know in 1874 Ulysses S. Grant spoke from this balcony? I don't know why he brings this up, but I was just like, no, he didn't. No, he did not.
Says, I have dedicated my life to restoring this Bonanza Citadel. Mm-hmm. And I know Bonanza is an actual thing, but I just can't, it's just a silly word.
They say the word Bonanza like 18 times in this movie. Every time Charles, as I'm going to call him, it's Silverdale.
Yeah.
I'll call him Silverdale from now, even though he's Charles in my notes. So that way we can kind of keep it a little consistent. Even though Silverdale, every time he talks about this town, he calls it a bonanza.
Which just makes me think of like a big mattress sale.
Come
on down to the mattress bonanza. We've got mattresses for $7 off.
It makes me think of the old TV show Bonanza because my dad watches that show because my dad loves Westerns. So it makes me think of the show. So at least, because it is a Wild West word.
Yeah, I know it's an actual thing. It's just with like today's context, it's become a bit of a goofy word.
Oh, I'm going to burp. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. So then it turns out it's Sunday, and every
no post
Sunday.
on Sundays?
Yes, no post on Sundays. So every Sunday after church at the Comstock, they have a fancy party where everyone gathers in their Sunday best, and they all start to make polite conversation that leads to nothing other than the fact that we repeat that Barnstable wants to buy the mines again.
They go all out in this thing. Like, there's a string quartet and drinks and little sandwiches.
We're talking, like, a real fancy soiree here. Like, why is it so fancy? We don't know. I'm not sure if this was a thing they used to do in the West, but, like, every Sunday, this is just what the town does.
Yeah.
It's not a huge town. I would say there's maybe 50 to 100 people that live there, so I could believe that you would have this party and that everyone would go to church.
Yeah.
Especially since it is the Wild West and everyone went to church in the Wild West.
Yeah.
So I could believe
It's one of those towns where, like, everyone knew each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is where I found out that Barnstable is from a mining industry out east, the Wright Mining Company, something like that.
Yeah.
And they want to mine the gold that's left in the mines, but the society claims that they want to keep the mines untouched because we have to keep it authentic. We have to keep
historical conservation.
Mm-hmm. That's what they keep saying. So then we cut.
Hard cut to a horse butt.
To a horse butt. And
Seriously.
we see, I did not realize this was the sheriff. When we paused, I then realized he's wearing a safari hat. Like, one of those, like, you'll know what I'm talking about. We can, like, Google this. You know those, like, hats that you see
like a bucket
in
helmet,
movie?
kinda?
No. The best way to describe it is, you know those hats that explorers in movies and, like, the Amazon wear? Mm-hmm. That's what he's wearing for some reason.
You remember that scene in Spaceballs where they're combing the desert?
Yes.
Yeah, those kinds of
hats. It's kind of like that kind of hat. But he's like...
Why was that my first?
I don't know. My thought was like the Amazon Explorer hat. You know it, on
Spaceballs.
But, so, I did not realize this was the sheriff for a minute.
Was Philip Moldove.
No. Moldove is the one that goes to talk to the sheriff. I'm talking Sheriff Sideburns is the one in the hat.
I thought that was Moldove.
No. Moldove comes to talk to the sheriff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Moldove is the deputy, not the sheriff.
Okay.
We've already talked about this. Moldove is the deputy. Sheriff Sideburns, as we're going to call him, Sheriff Gordon, is the sheriff. There are so many characters, none of them amount to anything. So the sheriff is, like, rifling through the trash for some reason, and Philip Moldove comes to talk to him. We don't really know why they're there, but apparently... the sheriff just does this, and he's like, he found something smelly wrapped in some
glove.
Yeah, wrapped in some sheets that they're like, yeah, it came from the lab. So the only thing I could figure is that the lab's throwing away weird stuff, and they're trying to figure out what they're doing out there, so they're investigating their trash.
Yeah, that's what
yeah.
He says he wants to keep an eye on whatever trash is coming out of there.
Yeah, and then there's
anything that comes from the lab.
Yeah, it has to go to that dump in the middle of nowhere. It's just like some trash heaped out in the desert. It's wild. And then there's some weird-ass whirling noise that comes from nowhere.
Some weird theremin kind of...
It's like a... Yeah.
Boobies.
I'm not going to lie to you. I love the theremin. I would love to buy and
I'm not saying they're bad. It's just some weird...
So then...
Which I actually think that they were using that sound effect to indicate the smell. Because that same sound effect comes back later.
I think it is. But we see, like... They look up, and the professor's car is there. Did you notice when they drove away, it looked like there was no one in that car?
Yeah. He also just dumps a box of stuff right down the side of this landfill.
Yeah.
Right towards
the sheriff, which he may not have seen them. I mean, whatever.
I thought the box was going to hit him at one point.
It did look like it was just going to smash right into our safari sheriff man. So, hard cutaway again. And now the sheriff is in a communication outpost. He was just at the dump. Now he's at an outpost. The amount of times we cut from one person being in one place, hard cut to them being in a completely different place, boggles my goddamn mind. This happens so many times that I don't know where anything is. I don't know how much time has passed. I don't know.
I have no idea how much time passes this entire movie.
No, we have no idea. So Mariposa shows up. He's like listening to the radio. They're trying to set up a communications tower. And she's like, I need some equipment, but it's too late to go to Reno. And he's like, no, I'm not giving you shit. Here you go. Here's the shit you need.
It's like, you can't come in here. Well, I need to come in there. Oh, I'm giving you this cable.
Yeah, he gives her the things that he said he won't give her after he says he won't give them to her. And she's like, yeah, but I need them. And he's like, okay, here you go.
Because she tries to come in, and he doesn't want her to go in there, and we don't know why.
We don't know why.
I don't think we ever cut back there, do we?
Do
we ever go back to that outpost?
I don't think we ever go back to that outpost. It's basically just to establish that they're trying to connect the town to a communication network that's only in the town.
Yeah.
Is what I'm guessing. So basically like a radio network. It's just taking them time to put it up. So, oh God. So then the sheriff comes out with Mariposa to like put the cables in the car, and then Eddie just jumps from the passenger seat and yells, "Rah!"
He just does the full on "Oga boga boga." It's like,
and we're like, oh my, and he has this wild look on his face, and you're like, oh my God, did he go fucking crazy? Is he still in shock? What is going on? And then like the sheriff's like, what the fuck, kid? Like, get the fuck out of here. You little bastard.
Eddie just starts laughing. Like, there's nothing wrong with him. He's just being a douche.
He's just being a dick. And
there was also a jump scare music sting there.
Oh, yeah, there was. It was
one of those.
It was so weird. Like, when I say this movie is weird, it makes no sense and nothing cuts together. So then they go driving, and Mariposa, she's driving along, and she stops at, like, a valley. Like, they're on, I guess, like a cliffside looking over the valley, like on top of the mountain. And it just cuts to this gothic woman.
They're in like a graveyard.
Yeah, they're in a graveyard, and there's just this woman wearing all black, like creeping, like she be creeping, looking at them.
Yeah.
And they're talking about the embryo. They're talking about, science. They're talking
about legends.
And then they talk, for some reason, Mariposa, she looks at Eddie and she's like, so have you heard the story of the white wolf and the princess? And the white wolf turned into a rock at the foot of Sugarloaf Mountain. This never comes up again. They never go into full detail. I don't know why she says it.
And then what happens?
Then, oh no. Oh God. Okay. So Eddie then talks about his vision about the moaning sheep and the dust in the barn. He talks about all that, like what he saw, and that there was a fire in the sky and that the embryo just shows up. And Mariposa's like, yeah, absolutely. She's a scientist, by the way. And she's like, yeah. I believe you.
You must think I'm crazy.
You must think I'm crazy. No. So then they sit down. And God fucking damn it.
They've known each other for less than a day.
He leans in. And at 27 minutes, 23 seconds, we stopped because I yelled that we had to stop. Because he kisses her for no goddamn reason. He just leans in and they make out. But it turns out they did a little more than make out, if you know what I mean.
Hey, chicka bum bum.
What'd you say?
Hey, chicka bum bum.
Oh, yeah, so we don't know that they had sex yet, but they had sex in the graveyard.
That's hot.
Yeah. So
they have, again, we don't know how long time's passed, but it really feels like she met him this morning, covered in hay next to a giant glowing embryo and blood, and then they brought it to the lab. She went and got cable and she wrote to them, and then they just start making out in a graveyard.
Yeah. We don't know that they did it yet, but
so then weird kinks.
The goth lady sees what's happening. She sees them doing it. We don't yet. We still don't know they're actually doing the do yet. And she runs away with her hands up next to her shoulders, like in the oh no, run.
All I could describe it was as scampers off.
She does this weird, oh no. Have you ever seen anime where girls run and they're panicking and they have their arms up like around their head in like hands and they're like kind of, you know what I mean? Like they're kind of flailing their hands. She does that. It's the only way I can describe it. Yeah. So Okay, where were we?
All right, so after that, we head back to the lab. We get to see a little more what's going on with the embryo.
Which is smoking?
Yeah, it's smoking. It's leaking yellow phosphorus. We hear from Dr. Clemens.
Yeah.
It's also been growing sheep hair on the bottom of it.
Yeah.
This is where we find out that's a little under 50 pounds. I think it was like 47,
Yeah,
48.
he just kind of starts saying science stuff. He talks about like how big it is, how much it weighs.
And he says, by all accounts, that it should be dead.
It should be dead.
Well, how is this thing alive? So he wants to put it on the examination table. He opens the box and a bunch of toxic phosphorus comes out. So he puts on the gas mask, and then we just cut again.
And then we just cut again to, like, we learned nothing there. So,
and then we cut to a fortune teller.
Okay, so I thought her name was very Madame Alt. This is a point where we had to stop, I think, 4 or 5 times because the exposition here was hardcore.
I just have exposition dump in all caps.
So her name was Madame Alta. I heard Madame Oliver. I then started calling her Madame Whatever.
I heard Other. I heard Otter. I heard Aga.
It's because the audio in this movie is horrible, but we were watching it on YouTube, so we couldn't turn on any captions. Because we had found it on Tubi, but I didn't want to watch it with ads because ads. And the way Tubi does their ads, they just kind of like cut, and it's a whole big thing. Anyway, so she starts talking about their science machine with the embryo.
And who's she talking to?
She's talking to Mariposa, and she's saying like, you have a science machine. It will be your downfall. It is evil.
Kids and their phones.
It's evil and came from the center of the earth.
There are vibrations coming from the earth through catacombs and shit.
And the mountains are evil, and it came from the earth and the underground caverns.
Wait a second.
What?
Why did Mariposa go to a fortune teller?
It wouldn't have been uncommon if it was the Wild West for fortune tellers to be around, so we don't know why she went to the fortune teller, but I'll just accept the fact that she went to Madame Alta just because.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
There's a lot of movies where people just end up at fortune tellers.
Yeah.
So it turns out they had sex at Madame Alta's fucking grandma's grave, and she was the lady in black that saw them doing the do. But she says that the spirits of 1,000 miners told her all of this, when in reality...
A bunch of 14-year-olds came over and told me you were fucking.
In reality, she just saw everything and heard what they said, but she says she's clairvoyant. Now, I'm not going to lie to y'all. I did not realize for a very, very long time that this was Madame Alta that did this, that saw them. I just thought it was a lady that had nothing to do with the plot, and that Madame Alta was just fucking crazy.
I thought the same thing, too, because she has a lot of costume changes.
She has a lot of costume changes, and there are multiple times that you cannot tell it's her, because sometimes she'll have her hair covered.
Yeah.
Sometimes she won't. She'll look completely different through the film, so you won't realize it's her at times. And she hadn't been introduced yet. This is the first time we're getting the introduction. So the fact that we saw her before, she looked nothing like she did in this scene.
Yeah.
So we had no idea who that was. I'll tell you when I finally realized it was her. It's a very long away from it. Like clicks with me. I was like, oh shit, it was her the whole time. So yeah, she says it was the spirit of 1,000 miners. In reality, she just saw him do it and overheard him. We don't know why she was there. We know it was her grandmother's grave, so maybe she went to like go visit the grave of her loved ones.
Respects.
Yeah, who knows? She's wearing all black, so why not?
Yeah.
So Mariposa leaves, and Madame Alta is told by Philip, like, you have to find out why the sheep farmer Eddie is here. That plot never comes back up. She never investigates this, like, at all. She's just told to do this. And she's just like, okay. And then nothing ever comes of it.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I'm not crazy.
And hard cut to a mine shaft.
Yeah, I kid you not, we hard cut to them in the mine, like the mine cart going down the shaft. Like, we don't know who's even in the mine cart yet. Just that it's going
It's a
down.
shitty dark ride at Disney.
Yeah.
I also just realized that we had...
Yeah.
Never mind. Okay, I was going to say we had like 3 scenes in a row with Mariposa in it with different hard cuts.
Yeah.
But no, we only had 2.
We only had 2. So she and Dr. Clemens are going down the mine, and that whirling sound comes back. So you're right. It could be the smell. But
you can't really convey smell.
Yeah, you can't convey smell. So that's actually pretty smart.
Unless you want to do the stink lines.
Well, because they never really acknowledge the sound so much. They always make kind of a stinky face. So I think you might be right, and I didn't notice.
They're also pushing the cart. They're not riding it.
Oh, were they pushing it? Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mariposa, like, all of a sudden there's, like, I thought it looked like dust falling from the ceiling. No, it was gas, and I didn't realize this. But it looks like dust because she just starts to hyperventilate, and there's all this brown stuff around her.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And she takes her helmet off, and she's choking, but the doctor is unearthing some whole-ass bones from some loose-ass dirt.
Yep, he's just down the mine shaft a bit. Told Mariposa to stay back a little bit. He's just down there digging up some cheap bones.
He's got his, like, little hammer. You know, you've seen those little rock hammers that they use to, like, chink out bones.
Or break out of Shawshank.
Or break out Shawshank. It's like that.
Yeah.
But he's not digging any hard rock. It's literally just a pile of loose-ass dirt and rocks with, like, 3 bones clearly sticking out of
He's got
it.
his perfect sheep skull.
Yeah, like they do not look old at all. Yeah. They are some whole ass, new ass bones that they shoved in some dirt, and it looks great. And
he calls out for Mariposa, doesn't hear anything, so he rushes back.
Yeah,
and we start getting some more of that yellow smoke pouring out of the hole.
And he's like, "Oh no, it smells really bad." That's when he says it's yellow phosphorus. He's like, "Oh no, the yellow phosphorus."
This is the same thing coming out of the embryo back at the lab.
Right, but he says it's not poisonous. It won't kill you, but it can like make you pass out.
Yeah, it can cause
go ahead.
delusions, blindness. It can knock you out.
He mentions
bunch of symptoms.
He mentions it comes from fertilizer.
I missed that part.
Well, he's talking about like, yellow phosphorus. It's common in fertilizer. Like it's the basis of all life, is what he mentions.
Yellow phosphorus is like the big thing in this movie.
Well, then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's talking about a myth about a prehistoric animal that's somehow linked to the phosphorus, but he doesn't go that much in depth into it yet. He just kind of mentions like, yes, the prehistoric animal that attacked the miners. It must be from the yellow phosphorus, and we have no idea why yet. What? Huh?
Hey everyone, real quick, it's Gus here. I just want to let you know that between the recording and the editing of this episode, we have created our social media accounts. We have a Twitter account and an Instagram account you can reach us at. Our Twitter is at 20,000 podcasts. That is 20,000 the number, so a 2 and 4 zeros, then podcasts. Our Instagram is It Came From 20K Pod. So ITCAMEFROM 20KPOD. And our email is also itcamefrom20kpod@gmail.com. So all those will be in the links down the descriptions of this episode. So please give us a follow, share around them some stuff. Send us an email if you want, and give us some direct feedback, how we can improve, what you like, what you don't like. You know, this is only episode 2, so we're still getting used to things. Alrighty, and back to the episode.
Oh, we're getting to my favorite part here soon. I just saw my notes and I got very excited. We're getting there. So then we get to the tourist festival, which got mentioned in great passing, or like literally a passing line earlier. I didn't actually think we were going to see the tourist festival. We're now at the tourist festival.
Hard cut to a parade downtown.
Was that not the most boring looking parade you've ever seen in your life? Oh my God. There was
no floats.
There was nothing. It was just some people riding some horses and people were like, woo!
There's some like mopeds and a guy in a car. Some horse-drawn carriages.
Was there a moped and a guy in a car?
Yeah, there was a red car and there was
I don't remember the car. Oh, you're right. I do.
2 mopeds.
I do remember the car now. What seems weird for a town that's supposed to not. Well, it's tourists, so they would have a car. Okay, never mind. So they're having this festival.
There's no floats, but honestly, after seeing how the monster looks at the end, I'm kind of glad they didn't try and make anything else.
So they're doing some Wild West stuff. They're shooting some bottles, like. Barnstable is drunk shooting bottles, and there's a bunch of people around him, like cheering him on.
Dressed like a cowboy.
Yeah, he's dressed like a full-ass cowboy.
He is just living it up.
He's living it up. It somehow looks really boring, even though he's supposed to be having the most fun in his life. And Madame Alta complains about the shooting as she's walking through town. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Okay, wait. We're here. Okay, go on.
So Mr. Silverdale shows up, Charles. He gets a huge welcome. People fucking love this dude.
Yeah, they love him for some reason. Like I said, he's a cult leader. Yeah. Like, this is a Wild West cult. It's the only way to describe why people love him so much.
So he shows up. He talks a little bit with Barnstable.
Yeah, he talks to the sheriff and Barnstable. Because this is the sheriff that pulls off this whole next fucking stunt.
Sheriff Gordon, he's there with his dog.
Oh, my God, Sheriff Sideburns.
Next to the shooting range.
We're here.
where Barnstable is shooting.
Barnstable.
Trust me, it's weirder than you think.
Okay.
Take it away.
Okay. So the sheriff decides he has to. He's standing there and he's kind of off on his own, like maybe 5 to 10 feet away from where Barnstable is like shooting some bottles.
I do apologize for saying his name correctly.
Shut up. He's shooting bottles. He's having a grand old time. He's surrounded by like a big chunk of the town and a bunch of tourists.
Yeah, they're just hanging out, having fun. Like, yeah, this guy's pretty good.
Hold on. So the sheriff looks down at his German Shepherd. He tells the dog to play dead. And the dog, like, lays down and just starts playing dead. And then he starts screaming that Barnstable shot his dog. There's no blood. There's no injury. The dog is clearly fine. But the town freaks the fuck out and starts screaming that Barnstable shot and murdered the dog.
They call him a murderer.
They're calling him a murderer.
Freaking out.
He's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I'll take care of it for you. Like, I'll get you a new dog. Like, he tries to make it right.
Mr. Silverdale ends the parade right then and there. It's like, everyone go home.
Well, what's crazy is we see the festival continue later. But anyway, this dog is clearly fine. Barnstable tries to make it right, but then when Sheriff Sideburns is like, fuck off, he says, it's just a damn dog. Oh my God, we now get to the best part of the movie where I literally cried because I was laughing so hard.
Shrieks.
There were literally shrieks. So they're suddenly at a funeral with a full casket, flowers, in a church with...
The organ's playing.
The organ playing.
People have turned out.
And I'm like, is this the dog's funeral? And I'm like, no, this can't be.
Just another weird cut.
It's just a rather weird cut, right?
But that coffin looks awfully
Small. It's the dog's funeral. We're talking full church, priest, flowers, people crying in pews. People think this dog has passed away. How long has it been? Why is this a real funeral? There is a receiving line. I kid you not. The sheriff stands there and receives like 10 goddamn people before Barnstable.
All of it.
They're showing us all of it. People are crying. People are devastated by the loss of this dog. And I cried. I was laughing so hard because it was so goddamn real.
We also never found out the dog's name.
No. So, then the sheriff, after everyone leaves, the sheriff's standing there with...
Barnstable even comes around to try and give his condolences.
Sheriff turns away from him like, no, I can't. And he leaves. So then he's talking to Silverdale.
Everyone leaves. They close the doors.
And he's like, okay. He admits that he sent the dog to live with some family in Albuquerque. And that Manor dog's loyal. And they open the casket and it's empty. But it fucking barks. They open the casket and it begins to bark.
I thought maybe the dog was like in the back of the church and coming out. No,
the dog is gone. They sent it to family in Albuquerque because they can't admit that the dog is alive because they staged the dog's death so the town will hate Barnstable so they won't agree to lease him the land. The next scene is him knocking on doors while some horrible ragtime music plays, and he opens these old-timey lease papers, and people are just shaking their heads real big and comically, and then shutting the door.
He goes to a barber shop. He does the same thing. The barber turns the open sign to close. Why didn't he just walk into the fucking barber shop? Why was he knocking on the window?
Yeah, like, I kid you not. It is the most cartoony ass thing you've ever... We're talking... When I say these papers are actually from, like, 1890 fucking whatever.
It's like this big grand text on top that's like lease agreement or...
It's amazing. I kid you not when I say that I had tears. I was laughing so fucking hard. He's still dressed in that same Wild West outfit.
He's still dressed as a cowboy.
I kid you not, he went from the cowboy outfit to a funeral outfit back to the cowboy outfit.
Oh shit, you're right.
They all did. We don't know how much time has passed.
They did say later on, I think Sheriff Gordon said that it was the day after.
Okay. Either way. So they're knocking on people's doors.
But still, they did not make it seem like that. They made it seem like everyone just got in their funeral garb and went to the dog's funeral.
The dog's goddamn funeral with
dog's fake funeral.
A real ass casket. So also, by the way, as he's opening, like people are opening their doors, they're all dressed in Wild West outfits still. Like they are dedicated to their craft, y'all. Like in their own homes, they are still wearing that Wild West outfit.
Now, I will say that the idea of turning the town against the guy who wants to buy the stuff, that's not a terrible plot point. I don't mind that. You know, it's like Silverdale's got some. He's got some.
I get it, but a fake dog funeral?
That's too much.
At some point, there's a sentence that Silverdale says where he's like, "Events have a certain logic." What fucking logic is this? What is this? I don't understand. But at the same time, it was my favorite part of the movie because it was the only thing that gave me enjoyment in this movie because it was so goddamn buck wild, y'all.
At least the dog lived. It's always sad when a dog dies in a movie.
Yeah. Okay. So, again, we talk about not selling the mine. We're going to prevent pollution.
Also, did you see when he went to the third house right before the barber shop? Barber shop?
Yeah.
There was a shadow of a tree cast on the front door, and you could not see a goddamn thing.
Oh, I did notice that, but I wasn't going to bring it up. I'm glad you did.
Oh, it was awful.
So this is also the point for some reason that I realized that that the goth lady was Lady Alta. This for some reason, because we see her again, and I was like, oh, because she was wearing all black again, and I was like, oh, that was her.
Wait, was she the bartender?
She was in the bar.
Okay, so she wasn't the bartender.
She was not the bartender, but she was in the bar with Philip when they cut to the bar. Because Lady Alta is fucking everywhere in this town. Again, we have the same syndrome of everywhere we go in this town, the same person is there. Because she's in the bar, but she's not the bartender. Okay. She just happens to be there.
So,
because Barnstable's at the bar, and he's trying to convince Alta to go to Reno with him so they can go gamble.
I thought that was the bartender he was talking to.
No, he's talking to Lady Alta. The bartender there's a bartender also there. He's talking to Matt. Were we watching the same movie? No, he's talking to Madame Alta. He's like, oh, let's go to Reno and gamble. And she's like, no. And then Philip shows up, and he pulls a gun on Barnstable, who's like super drunk and just kind of closing one eye to look drunk. And Lady Alta's like, ah!
But at the bar, they're like they're pouring him a drink. They're treating him with, at least a little decency.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
He's like, hey, let's go to Reno and you can pull on some slots.
Yeah.
And then
Philip shows up.
Philip shows up, pulls a gun on him. And they played up pulling a gun on someone is a much bigger deal in this movie than they did in The Killer Shrews.
Yeah, they actually were like, hold on now,
actually
partner.
A bit of tension.
Like, he's like, whoa, hold on. Like, there's no need for that. Like, I'll do whatever. Like, I'll come talk to you at your house or whatever.
Because Philip is actually, like, can we talk about this? Let's bury the hatchet. Like, he's trying to be...
You mean Barnstable? Because Philip's drunk. And by drunk, I mean kind of half tripping over his shoes with one eye half closed.
Yeah.
With his gun out, kind of flapping around in his hand. So we then hard cut again after they have this talk of like, whoa, let's bury the hatchet. Like, let's talk about this. There's no need to
lab again.
Yep, there's no need to shoot me. I'll come with you to talk.
Then Philip leaves.
And Philip leaves without Barnstable.
Yep.
We cut back to the lab. The embryo's still smoking.
This is where we get the exposition about the yellow phosphorus.
Yes.
That caused blindness and delusions. Dr. Clemens says this is probably what the miners saw back in the day.
Right. They clearly saw...
it also causes fires and explosions.
Yeah, phosphorus is very flammable.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, I'm going to burp again. I'm drinking LaCroix.
The embryo is also growing.
Yeah, it's growing. They think that what the miners saw back in the day was a sheep that said somehow combined with the yellow phosphorus, and that the phosphorus exploded. It caused a fire. Whatever was down there died in the mines. The phosphorus that was in the carcass then leaked into the ground. The sheep ate it. Like, whatever mama sheep gave birth to this embryo ate it, and then gave birth to the embryo, which is now weird and like growing.
Because there's basically a chamber of yellow phosphorus under Eddie's sheep farm.
Yes. Mariposa and Eddie just start making out next to the roaring, smoking embryo.
Yep, the cage is shaking, the monster's snarling because Dr. Clemens is like, Mariposa, you take the night shift. I'm going to go eat food.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just cut to them making out, cut to the monster, hard cut to a gunfight.
Yeah.
In the middle of town.
A fake gunfight in front of the saloon, but they just throw the fake dead bodies in front of some horrified looking children. Like, they're limp. Like, they're putting their hats over their faces like they're really dead. They've got, like, squibs going.
They're doing like a gun show kind of thing, like the Indiana Jones.
But these kids look actually scared.
But at first, I did not realize it was a show. Yeah. And I just thought it was just a straight up gunfight. Like, whoa, what's happening now? Oh, it's fake.
No, this is when the festival continued for no reason, even though he said to cancel the rest of the festival.
Maybe he's meant for that day.
Maybe. We don't know how much time has passed. We then cut to this guy hammering something and then just double fisting beers.
He's like hammering it. Looks like a railroad tie, and there's a countdown. It's like a competition or something.
And then he's just double fisting beers.
Yeah. Then we get a fucking terrible transition. I hated this.
I want you to explain this transition because I could not figure out how to describe this.
So basically, we have a shot on Barnstable, and we have a whip pan over to Silverdale talking with Philip, and they're on a train.
Right.
They're just hanging out next to a big old train.
But the whip pan
shakes. It's weird, wobbly, goes down, and a whip pan should just be simple. One scene to another. You can cover up a cut from one whip to another.
Right.
Instead, they do the whip pan, hard cut to Silverdale talking.
The way that it looks is it's almost like they whip pan, go too far in the whip, and then back the camera up to where they wanted to go. Because it hard cuts so quickly that's what it looks like. It looks like you're whip panning and then suddenly stop to go back.
The problem is that there's no motion in the going back or even the two.
No,
we just hard cut. There's no motion.
Right. It's a whip pan into a hard cut, but not done in a way that makes any kind of sense.
If you want to do something like that, you have to have the scene coming in on the other side with the whip pan still coming in.
Right.
That way you can cover up the cut between the two shots with the whip pan. They did not do this, and it looked like fucking garbage. It looked like the cameraman who's shooting the shot of Barnstable just moved, and they didn't cut.
It looked like they were standing, and then suddenly, the camera fell.
Something like that. Or someone nudged it, and it spun to the side.
It was so
I hated
weird.
The editing of this movie is so bad at points.
And
editing is literally my job is being a video editor.
Yeah, literally, Gus is a video editor. I worked.
That's 45% of my job is editing videos.
I worked in radio editing audio for a while. That used to be my job, as I was an audio editor for a radio station for a while. That's also partially what I went to school for a little bit before I changed degrees. So I know a lot about audio editing, and wowee. Even though you do all the audio editing in this, I still know quite a bit about it. I know about audio. You wouldn't know that listening to the first episode of this, but hey.
Yeah, we're still getting used to things.
It's fine. And it just, it was so weird. And they're just suddenly sitting on a train.
Just hanging out. On a train.
Yeah. And again, you can't buy the mines, Barnstable. That's all they've been doing is just cutting to the cutting to the lab. Oh yeah, look at the monster growing. You can't buy the mines, Barnstable. Back to the monster. Back to you can't buy the mines.
Or Silverdale talking to other people about how he doesn't want to sell the mines.
Right. That's been this whole goddamn movie so far, and it was mind numbing.
Then we cut to a pie eating contest.
Pie eating contest for some reason. And then Philip tries to walk by the pie eating contest, and they just throw pies at him?
Yeah, they just throw pies.
They just suddenly, pick up the pies they were eating and just fucking whip them at fucking Philip for no reason.
Philip he's depressed, he's drunk, he's probably hasn't had a good night's sleep in a while, and he just...
Didn't he just have that conversation with Barnstable about, we have to talk, and now suddenly Barnstable is hanging out in the street, and he's getting pies thrown at him?
No, the we have to talk line came later, because the first bar...
Okay,
they have two bar scenes.
You're right. I'm thinking of the other bar scene.
The first bar scene, Barnstable is trying to...
You're right. He's just saying,
he wants to bury the hatchet. And
right. The second bar scene that's actually just about to happen is where Philip's like, hey, let's go talk.
Yeah, that happens pretty soon.
That happens right now, actually. Just about. So none of this movie's been about the goddamn monster yet. They're just repeating, you can't buy the Barnstable, yeah. So then Philip they go into the bar. Philip then invites Barnstable to his house.
We also see a scene of him basically shaving his entire beard.
Yeah.
Just for a while. And then we see him load his gun. It's just part of his morning routine. He's going to make some eggs and sharpen some knives.
Yeah. This is where Philip invites Barnstable to his house. They were like, hey, let's bury the hatchet. Then Philip says, hey, let's go talk. I forgot that was like two separate scenes because this movie melds together.
Yeah. So they meet at the same bar. Mm-hmm. Barnstable's there. Mm-hmm. Philip comes in. He's like, come to my house. Let's bury the hatchet. So then we go to Philip's house, and it's really wild looking because it looks like the 1870s mixed with the 1970s. Yeah. We've got like red walls with like Wild West lights, but also stuff that's clearly 1970s, like a reel-to-reel tape that's playing music. Yeah.
But it's playing like strange Wild West music.
We also, going from the bar to the house, have one of the other decent transitions in this movie.
What was that one?
The two guys, they clink their glasses.
Oh yeah, and then when they pull away, and it's those two like they're have clinked their glasses. You're right.
Clinking their glasses again, but now they're at the house. It was still a bit of a weird, jarring jump cut, but the intention
they tried.
Was good.
So Philip is like, "Hey, Barnstable, why don't you cut me in on your deal? Like, let's cut me in here." And he's like, "No, that's not going to happen." So then we get to a weird fight.
But Philip is telling him that, tells Barnstable that Silverdale is trying to go over his head. Silverdale wants to sell the mines. That's why he doesn't want to sell them to Barnstable, so he can get the money. And he's trying to cut him in on that. And Barnstable says, nah, man, you're not loyal. And then he tries to leave. So then, Philip grabs a bottle, hits Barnstable over the head. He crashes through some glass? Was it like the liquor cabinet? I thought he just kind of smashed into a window.
Maybe it was a window. It didn't look like it was a window to the outside, though. It was really weird. But he smashes into some glass and, like, passes out. And then Philip, okay. So Philip looks at him and he's like, oh, man, he's going to set up Barnstable. So he takes his gun, he cocks it, he points it at his arm, and you hear a gunshot. But again, there's no wound. There's no real bullet. Spot? No, there's not even that.
I thought there was a little red
spot.
Nope,
there was nothing. He just points it at... He doesn't even point it really at his arm. He kind of points it above his arm, so it kind of looks like it's pointing at his arm. He never even really pulls the trigger. But then he just, like, falls down, and he's like, my arm! He's like,
and then he plants the gun on Barnstable.
And then he, like,
puts it in his hand.
There's not even an injury. So they arrest Barnstable for attempted murder. Charles shows up. Barnstable's demanding a lawyer. He's screaming. He threatens the town. And Charles is like, you shot Philip in attempted murder, because Barnstable has no idea because he had passed out because he got hit with that glass. He doesn't...
Got hit in the head with a full bottle of wine.
Right. And there's no witnesses to this.
I will say, at least for this, like, so many movies you see someone get hit in the head with a bottle and they're... You know, there's like,
oh no, like he really bleeds. Like he
knocks him out here, which is probably what would happen if you got hit in the head with a full bottle of wine.
Right, like the actual injury that Barnstable gets, like when he falls to the glass, like he actually bleeds pretty heavily. Yeah. Like he gets actually pretty fucked up. So they're talking, and then there's an explosion, and somehow they pick it up on the radio. I don't know how that happens.
I'm not sure what's happening here. The radio in the police station starts going all wobbly wobbly.
And they're like, oh my God, it's an explosion out in Indian Flats. How did they know that?
I don't know. And then they cut to the lab, and the lab's on fire.
Yeah.
The embryo box is on fire.
The embryo box is on fire. It's roaring. I forgot this was a monster movie at this point.
Yep.
It's been an hour. There's no monster attack still.
Doc Clemens says, don't touch anything. Twice exactly the same, just like we had before with Eddie. That was too different. Eddie.
Yeah.
Don't touch anything.
So the 601 Society, they all kind of gather together, and they're like, we're gonna take out Barnstable. We're gonna break into the jail. We're gonna beat him up. We're gonna run him out of town.
We see Philip shake every other hand of the guys.
Oh, yeah, he really does.
They're like lined up in a line, both sides of him. Philip goes, shakes everyone's hand.
And we have to watch them shake like 8 goddamn people's hands, and it takes forever.
And he's shaking hands pretty well for a guy that got fucking shot in the arm.
Yeah, they never question the fact that he actually got shot in the arm. Like, this is clearly a setup, and they clearly know this is a setup.
Yep.
Because
they say that they want to lynch Barnstable.
Yeah, they want to lynch him. Oh my God. Oh, we never mentioned Barnstable's an African-American man.
Yep.
We forgot to mention that. He's a very handsome...
He's a good-looking dude.
He's a very handsome African-American man.
He looks kind of like Donald Glover. A little bit.
He kind of does.
Especially in Solo.
Yeah, he actually really does. Like, he's actually really attractive.
He's a good-looking dude.
I completely forgot about that, and they say they want to lynch him.
They got a little uncomfortable there.
Yeah, it did a little bit.
And then Mr. Silverdale rides up, saying that, like, no, we got to take care of this. We can't let what's getting out. So we know that Silverdale's in on this.
Wait, we know Silverdale's in on it. The sheriff is eating the largest meal I've ever seen.
I cannot wait for that episode of Binging with Babish.
They cut back to the jail, and he's eating, I don't know what it is, but it's like peas, mashed, like when I say peas, like a entire bag of frozen peas.
It is just so much.
And
it's like a giant platter with like 2 steaks.
Was that steak? I couldn't tell what it was.
I thought it was. It looked like 2 steaks.
I thought it was it was like a whole chicken.
Maybe it was. I don't know. I couldn't quite tell what the meat was. I was too focused on the fact that there was an entire county's worth of peas on his plate.
It was.
And I like peas.
So
I'd probably eat all those peas.
Barnstable was screaming, but I couldn't understand what he was yelling.
He was singing to annoy him.
Oh. So, okay. So the sheriff is trying to ignore him, and he turns on some music. Did you notice that this was the most Surf USA Wild West music I've ever heard?
Gordon puts on the most generic 50s rock you can think of.
It's supposed to be like Wild West, but it sounds like surfer music.
Yeah, it was...
It's so strange. I've never heard anything like it. Because it's clearly kind of Wild Westy, but it's also kind of 50s surfer bro.
So generic.
It was so weird.
So as Gordon's just over there, he's eating his food, not paying attention.
The 601 comes in.
They're all wearing hoods.
They black bag Barnstable. And I kid you not, the sheriff, he's obviously in on it. He just keeps eating his meal. Yeah. So they're dragging Barnstable out, and he hits the goddamn camera.
Yep. They run into the camera as they leave.
And they didn't do another take. They were like, yeah, it's fine.
They also... They cut, like, right after this. Why didn't you just cut a little sooner?
Yeah, they could have cut a hair more. And it's so fucking weird.
Gordon just keeps on eating.
So, they're clearly going to try to kill him.
This part, I'll admit, actually did create a little bit of tension for me of just, like it's kind of uncomfortable. Mainly the fact that these guys are trying to murder a black man.
They're going to, like, lynch him. Like, they have black bagged him. Now, I don't know... Y'all, I told you I had studied radio. I also then switched to being an American history major. I don't know if y'all know how lynching in, like, the 50s used to work. This is going to be a little dark, but they used to black bag people before they did this to intimidate them. So that's really probably what they would have done, is to black bag someone before they put the noose around their neck. So it got actually pretty uncomfortable at that point. Fucked up. It got really dark, because that is what they used to do. So they're going to kill him, clearly.
They have a noose set up.
They have the noose.
At night. You can hear those air quotes.
Yeah.
That fucking blue filter.
Yeah, it's the blue filter again. Like, oh no. Like, I really thought we were about to get a lynching in this movie. It was 1973. I could believe it. But... he gets away in a car? I didn't quite see what happened here because it was so dark.
What happened was they take the bag off Barnstable, and they're talking to him. Philip says, like, we're keeping this quiet. We're going to tell everyone that you fell down the mountain. We're going to drop you into this Corvette. Barnstable then just kicks him and runs away because no one tied his hands.
Yeah, they didn't tie his hands or his feet, which makes no sense because
they just put a bag on his head and held him. Then he kicks Philip, he kicks the other guy, and then runs off into a convertible that's there.
Yeah, why is there just a convertible there? Why?
And then we find out who's driving the convertible.
Who was driving it?
It was the lady.
Mariposa.
That was her name.
Yep, that's her name. She, like... was she there?
No, it wasn't. It was
I thought, or was it was it Madame
Malta?
Oh, you're right. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
She saved him, and then they drive to the lab.
Oh, that's right. It's really easy to get those two mixed up because the color, there's no contrast in any of the color in this film. So it's really hard, even though one has red hair, one's blonde. It's actually pretty hard to tell them apart at times because you don't actually see Mariposa that much or Madame Alta. They're actually, this is weird, they're in the movie quite a bit, but you don't actually see them quite a bit. Like, they're often off screen.
Well, like, Madame Alta has been in on this stuff.
Right. The other problem is...
She knows, like, the dog was fake. She was at the funeral, like, when everyone else left, and they started talking about it.
Right, so she knows everything's fake. The other problem as to why I couldn't tell who it was is that with the blue filter, it's just hard to see who you're looking at, except for when you're looking at Barnstable, because he's an African-American man.
Yeah.
So you can tell him apart in the sea of blue. So he gets away in the car. Everybody else is riding horses, so of course they get away.
And then she says, I turned my headlights off. I think we can lose them in the dark, even though it's not fucking dark because it's 3 p.m.
Okay, so...
But in storyline, it's dark. So they go to the lab for help.
They go to the lab for help. They're like, yeah, the doctor will definitely help us. They show up, the doctor won't help them. Because even though he's been shot, the doctor has to focus on the embryo because...
It's getting big, it's getting rowdy.
There's something going on with it. It's real rowdy now.
They've moved it to a bigger cage.
So the 601 Society starts loading some guns. They know where Barnstable has gone. They're trying to hunt him down. They know he has to be in Indian Flats. They cannot let him get out of Indian Flats because if he does, he can go to the police.
Yeah. Mr. Silverdale says they want him captured alive. So folks, they're loading up with tear gas grenades.
Yeah, which I did not realize that's what those were at first. I was like, what are those? Because they look like shotguns, but they only had one barrel.
Yeah.
And I missed the fact that it was gas until they started launching it into the lab and gas starts pouring out.
I still thought that they were loading them into a shotgun too. Even though they said, and I caught that they were tear gas grenades, I thought they're still putting them in shotguns.
It looked like they were putting them in shotguns.
But they were grenade launchers.
But they were grenade launchers that looked like shotguns, which maybe that's what grenade launchers used to look like, and I'm just unaware of it. But it really looked like they hitched out, like they were shotguns, but with one barrel. That's exactly what they looked like. And at this point, I'm still like, God, the fucking monster, though. So they know he has to be in Indian Flats. They show up to the lab.
They have 7 squads.
They have 7 fucking squads of people. Not 7 people. 7 separate squads.
And we don't necessarily know how many people are in each of these squads, but it seems like 4 or 5 people per squad.
It's clear that they're setting up that it's a lot of people, like maybe anywhere between 30 to 50 to just put a number on it. But you don't see that many people. You maybe see 3 to 5 per squad, but it's clear that there's more than that. But they didn't have that many extras.
It's a way of making it feel like there's more people around. I get that.
Yeah, it's fine. So they start to shoot the gas canisters, and they get out of the lab, but the monster is still in the lab in its cage.
It starts writhing around. It's rattling. It's actually making some pretty grotesque sounds.
Yeah, it actually is. The sound
design isn't actually too bad on him.
It's a little bit low quality, but in reality, it's not that bad. I've heard worse. I've watched the giant claw. So it wants to get away from the gas because it's gas. It's tear gas. So it busts out of whatever incubator cage they had it in. And it's how would you describe this thing? It's like a sheep on its hind legs, but it has one really, really long, limp-ass arm.
Yeah.
And it walks around on 2 legs, and it's clearly supposed to look kind of like a sheep.
Because it's got a sheep head.
It's got a sheep head, but its mouth doesn't close.
It's all wonky. It's got, like, patches of fur all over it.
Its tongue is, like, 8 times the size it should be. The suit can't close its mouth, so it's, like, walking around with its mouth open going,
It's real. Like, there was a scene earlier on where we saw, like, what kind of looked like a face with the embryo, and it looked a lot scarier there.
It did, actually.
And then when we finally see, like, this version, it
just looks weird. It's
like a lumpy sheep.
Like, Google the Godmonster of Indian Flats. Also,
it'll be the thumbnail for this.
It'll be the thumbnail. I don't know why they call it the Godmonster. We never figure out why it's called that.
I got a fact at the end.
Okay.
Maybe I can share it now.
No. That's fine. You can tell me then. So
regarding the name.
Okay. It, like, whips its limp arm around and just kind of, like, really limply knocks a table over. I put that in my notes because it was just, like, so, like, morose. It was just like, nah.
And it gets out of the cage. The monster is loose.
But the 601 Society, they're beating up Barnstable. They're not paying attention to the fact
Dr. Clemens absolutely sells out Barnstable.
Oh, he does. They're like, we want Barnstable. And he's like, here you go. Because he's more focused on his science.
Yeah.
He actually does not know what's going on with the Barnstable storyline.
Give us Barnstable. I'll let you go. And it's like, here, take him. Just don't hurt my creature.
Well, because his whole thing is the town has been against him for a long time, and he's known that. They've been kind of like trying to figure out what he's doing. So in his mind, he needs to protect the embryo because to him, he's going to figure out how life is created using the embryo. So he doesn't care about Barnstable. He only cares I'm sorry, I hit my pop filter. Sorry if you heard that. He only cares about that. He doesn't know what's going on with Barnstable. He doesn't know they're trying to lynch him.
Yeah.
He just knows that some dude showed up and shot gas into his lab and that they want him. So, of course, he sells him, like, under the river. It makes sense.
I also want to have a reminder here that Eddie is still in this movie.
He is still in this movie. He's
the guy who we open up on in this movie, who starts off as the main character. We follow his journey all the way out from Reno to Indian Flats.
Yeah.
He's been in every lab scene.
He's just not been doing anything. He's just been standing there. He doesn't have lines. Or if he does, they're so, like, you don't care. Like, they're just filler, you know?
I also just realized that at this point, the romantic relationship between him and Mariposa is just...
It's gone.
We never see anything from it again.
I mean, maybe when... I don't want to get too ahead of myself because we're about to get there here in a minute. So they start to beat up Barnstable because he absolutely sold him, like, he threw him under the bus.
Yeah. He's in here. Come get him.
Yeah, finally, the monster finally shows up, and it knocks a guy down.
Knocks a guy off a roof. Then walks away, and everyone goes over and checks on the guy that fell off the roof who died.
Yep, he died. So this is when our good Professor Man is like, we cannot kill the monster. I need it alive. But thankfully, Silver or whatever is like, all the tourists have left the town. All of them? They're all just magically gone?
Exposition, because again, we don't know how freaking long it's been. I thought this was like the next... Do all these tourists just show up to this tiny town just for 2 days?
They must. They must show up for the tourist festival and then leave. But that can't be true because we saw them show up earlier when he was like, ew, tourists.
Yeah.
But they only come in summer. Like, this is clearly a summer tourist town because there's clearly a season. Because they mention it when he was talking earlier, like, oh, the tourists are showing
like
up.
3 days.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, they're showing up like locusts, and they're there for 1 day, then the funeral happens, then there's some more stuff, but now they've all gone home?
Yeah.
This movie is really bad at establishing how much time has passed.
Because there's clearly a hotel. Like, the saloon is clearly like a hotel saloon, so clearly not all the tourists to be gone, but no, they're all gone. So they're not going to call the army, they're not going to call the police, because it would cause a panic, they would come kill the monster.
We can handle this ourselves.
Yes. So he's like, we need to swear in more deputies to help capture the monster because this thing could answer the creation of life. We could get the answer to life in the universe. So if they could only kill it as a last resort. Like,
they also want to capture it so they can charge for tourism attraction. It can be an attraction at the museum.
They haven't mentioned this yet. That's a little later they mention it. Just a hair later, but they do mention that.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
Because we get the best line in the movie next. So Mariposa sees, like, the monster runs off and Mariposa saw it and, like, runs after it, okay? So she's running through the desert.
I have here, Mariposa runs off. She's gonna get eaten.
No, actually. So she runs to follow the monster and she finds it and it's kind of like roaring at her, but at the same time, it doesn't actually attack her.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem like it's actually an evil monster. It seems more like Frankenstein's monster and Frankenstein, where it's just kind of confused and wandering.
I actually kind of liked. It wasn't just some raging, rampaging, killing thing.
It does end up doing some stuff that's like kind of rampagey later, but it seems like an accident, not it trying to actually hurt people.
We'll get into that. That's happening pretty soon.
We'll get into that. So she gets there, she finds it, and she says...
Yeah, I've got the quote.
I do too, but I want you to say it because it's the best line in the movie.
You won't hurt me, will you? Don't be frightened. I've been following you since the glory hole.
Oh, no. That's not the line. It's all right. I've been following you all the way from the glory hole. What? This has never been called the glory hole before. They've never mentioned glory hole. I followed you all the way from the glory hole. Did she have sex with a monster?
In a bathroom at some club.
Never been called the glory hole before. We had to pause, laugh,
replay.
We had to back up.
Like, did I mishear that?
No, that's what it said. So then it just kind of
fucking glory hole.
It makes some noise at her, and then we get some interpretive dancing, as I called it, because she starts making these hippy dippy, like waving her hands in the air, like she's trying to calm it down.
Yeah, she tells it like, I'll bring you down to the valley where it's warm. I'll get you food and shelter and water.
Right. She clearly is like trying to not hurt this thing,
thing's
but
pretty scared.
It's obviously that it's scared. It's not trying to hurt her. And she's waving her hands in front of it, and it looks like an interpretive dance. She puts her hands on it. They're like swaying. You put your hands in the air and you shake them. And it's really weird. It's like, have you ever watched some hippies dance?
Yeah. It's kind of dance you would do if you're listening to like Enya.
Yeah. I'm pagan. I can say this.
Say where the
Oh, God. I really am, though. That's actually true. I actually am. Yeah. But it doesn't really matter. So that's just the way I can describe it, is like some hippie, like, dancing, and the suit can't close its mouth, so it looks fucking wild. Yeah. So Eddie comes from finally, Eddie has some use, because Eddie comes running. He's sprinting. And he sees her dancing with the sheep monster, and he thinks it's attacking her, because the way it looks with her hands on it, it kind of vaguely, like, I can see how you would think that.
No, like she's sticking her hands up to protect herself.
So he throws a rock at it, and it hits it, and she falls down, and it runs away. Yeah. So
the lighting also changed again between the two scenes.
Oh, it did. You're right.
Yeah, from when it was just the monster and Mariposa, and then when Eddie comes in, completely different.
It's completely different. It's much brighter. So, yeah, Eddie throws the rock at this thing, and it runs away. If he had not thrown that rock, none of the rest of this movie would have happened, because he scared it. So it runs away. She chases it. The communication line that we talked about forever ago is finally done.
Also, the sun has risen, so we're finally done with the damn blue filter.
Yeah. So it turns out that all the phones in and outside of town have been taken over for the town's use for an emergency. And they enact martial law. You can't do that.
The county of Silverdale is under martial law. State of emergency has been put into effect. No phones.
Yeah, which, to enact martial law, you can't just do that. You, the owner, mayor, whatever of this town, there's a lot that has to go into declaring martial law. Like, this is not something you can just do because you feel like it. Like, you would have to go to the state, the fucking federal government. Like, you can't just do that. So I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So
this is the point where I was talking about the yeah, this is where they
Is this where they talk about Godmonster? Did I miss it?
No.
Oh, go on.
No. Sorry. This is what I was talking earlier about, that they want to capture it and put it in the museum.
Oh, yeah. This is where they say, like, 50 cents a child, $1.50 a person. We can put it in a museum.
Dr. Clemens says that they're tracking the monster, and like it's a pattern. This monster showing signs of intelligence. Silverdale says it's a mongoloid. They want to capture it for the museum.
Right. That way they can keep it alive, and then the doctor can still study it, but they can make some money.
Yeah. Pay for some restoration for the train line.
Oh, that's right.
And then
we get to the next best part of the movie.
Then we get to another half-decent cut, at least, the theming's on there.
Right, because they're like
a shot of a kid playing with a toy train.
We get a kid playing with a toy train.
This group of kids outside in the most color we see in the movie, these kids playing on grass. When martial law has been declared, they're outside eating hot dogs, having a picnic.
I mean, maybe they didn't hear the communication. These kids are clearly not from the town. So it's a possibility that even though, because while they're saying, like, we're declaring martial law, they're showing, like, a dude in a gas station. Maybe they didn't hear it. I don't know. But there's these kids playing with this toy train.
Having hot dogs. They're having a good old time.
And the monster, you can look this up. It comes out from behind
the bushes.
Bush, and it like slowly sways at
starts
them,
waddling up towards them.
and it's
you
like
see this whole thing, and it's shitty, lumpy glory.
in its long arm, kind of waving as it goes.
I just realized what it kind of made me think of a little bit with the long arm. It kind of made me think of I think it was the elite flood forms in Halo.
Oh yeah, it kind of did.
But really badly made and fuzzy.
So it just kind of roars at them and looks real dumb, and they scream and run inside.
But then it just starts eating the food left behind.
Yeah.
Because it's hungry.
It's hungry.
It didn't make any attack at the kids.
No, it didn't.
It didn't go after them when they ran. It just started eating the hot dogs. And
it was clearly hungry. Like, this thing is clearly confused. It's not actually an evil monster, which I do kind of like. But then we get to the real bizarre thing. So it shows a gas pump.
It's kind of another montage. Like, we don't see it show up at this gas station.
No, not yet. So there's a guy in the gas station. This is clearly a gas station. Like, they walk out and there's like a Chevron logo. And the guy pulls out a blowtorch at the gas station and lights it.
He's got this lit blowtorch.
He's got a lit blowtorch for some reason. We don't know why. But then here it comes.
Here's the monster.
And it gets scared of the blowtorch guy because he's got fire, and it knocks into a gas pump and knocks it down.
Over with its
doofy arm, I think.
Its big old butt.
Yeah. And the blowtorch guy, like, freaks out and drops the blowtorch.
He throws the blowtorch.
Yeah, he throws the blowtorch.
Throws it at the monster.
Why did the guy have a lit-ass fucking blowtorch at a gas station?
So he can throw it at the monster, miss, hit the gasoline, and we have an explosion.
Yeah, but why did he didn't see the monster beforehand. He just lit this fucking torch.
It was lit beforehand. Then he sees the monster and throws his
we don't know why he lit a blue torch.
Was he maybe going to light a cigarette or something?
Why would you smoke at a gas station?
Why
would you light a blowtorch at a goddamn gas station?
Because he's an idiot.
Yeah. Anyway,
so we get an explosion. And we see the monster. He starts going into the mountains.
Yeah, he wanders off into the desert.
And we get a real good look at how damn thick this boy is.
Oh, it got dump truck ass.
He got some thighs for days.
Yeah.
I literally wrote, this monster's got some hips on him. All capitals. Damn boy, he thick. That a thick-ass boy, damn. You ever see that bird video? Damn boy, that a thick-ass boy.
That's a thick-ass boy. It is. This is actually where you get the best look of it as looking like a sheep on two legs.
Yeah.
Before that, you always kind of got either a front shot or like a top-up shot. This is where you actually can see that it's a sheep.
Yep.
And so it wanders into the desert. The town are still riding horses, including the professor who has a car. He has a car, but he's still riding a horse.
Well, I think it's because they're going into the mountains. They need something a little more...
That could be true. It could be that they're going... That's a good point. They did say, like, it's going into the mountains. You probably can't really drive there. Yeah. It's probably easier on horseback.
I also wrote that it was a horse brigade instead of a cavalry.
So... The doctor talks about, like, it's probably tired. It's cold from the night air. It's been walking a lot.
Probably exhausted.
Yeah. They're like, okay, we're going to circle it. We're going to tranquilize it. And then we're going to, like, bring it back to the town. Mm-hmm. So
they go up over one hill and they find it instantly.
Yeah, and it's just kind of hobbling around. Like, it's not attacking people.
Looks like it's munched on a bush or something, trying to find some food.
Yeah, like... It hobbles around. It does not attack. They circle it. It does not attack any of them. And then they lasso it with the world's loosest lassos.
Yeah. And they get it right in the mouth.
They get it right in the mouth? Yeah, because it can't close its mouth.
So lots of yeehaw and yahoo in here.
But they're like throwing lassos at it, and they're going around, but they're not tightening at all.
Yeah.
But then it just starts to bleed.
He's bleeding. Why? And how?
My only guess is that even though the lassos are super loose, it's insinuating that they're tightening them because they suddenly just become tight, and it must be cutting into it. And it's not struggling.
Yeah.
It just kind of lets it happen. And
I'm not sure if it's doing that because it's scared or it's just embracing the inevitable.
Or
it's just they can't show struggling with that costume.
Yeah.
But I kind of start feeling a little bad for him.
Yeah, it's clear through this whole thing that, like, this is all coincidence. It's not... Yeah,
trying to hurt people. No. You know, it did hurt that one guy.
It did, but
it killed that one guy on the roof.
It did, but it seemed like it didn't want to kill him. It seemed like it was an accident. Like the guy happened to be there, and it just kind of ran into him.
Well, actually, no, I think the guy did pull the gun on him.
Oh, maybe.
I think he did turn around and was like training the grenade launcher on him. So he saw that as a threat, knocked him
down. Yeah.
Every other time, that's the only person he's killed.
That's the only. Well,
I think the gas station guy was. We never saw what happened to him.
I think gas station guy's definitely dead. I think he died in that explosion. There's
never saw
no
the explosion, but to be fair, with this budget, I don't think you could have a guy be that close and have it be safe.
Right. So then it suddenly bursts into yellow phosphorus smoke, like it starts to leak.
Smoking out.
I don't know if it's because it's injured or what, but okay, fine. They capture it. So
the doctor cranks it.
They capture it. So then...
This is also a point where I have in my notes, have they actually said Godmonster yet?
No.
Nope.
So, okay. So, Charles then tells... Was he talking to Barnstable?
Yep, we cut to Silverdale, Charles, and he's in a car with Barnstable.
So remember when we talked about how Charles was trying to buy all the mines? That was actually true. He actually did go to Mr. Wright and he bought all the mines. Now he claims it's to keep the town preserved. Nope.
He shows Barnstable like, hey, here's the receipts. He's like, you son of a bitch, you did it. You went over my head.
Yeah.
Exactly what Philip said he was going to do.
Yeah, Philip was not actually lying. Even though Charles never mentioned this before, this just kind of comes, like, Philip was not lying. He actually was telling the truth.
Then Silverdale says, like, we dropped the charges on you. We got some of the boys. They're going to take you back to Reno. We got you a flight.
Yeah, why?
Just get him out of there.
Yeah, just get him out of there. Even
Barnstable says, you haven't destroyed the past. You've destroyed the present, which I feel was like a quote they thought was a little more meaningful.
Yeah.
I wrote it down. I was like, oh, that's not bad. And then I thought about it like, wait, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, basically, he didn't want to work through a middleman. He went right to Mr. Wright. And he's like, yeah, we're going to preserve the town. In reality, he wants to start mining the silver and gold and processing it himself.
Yep.
And he says that in the car. So they show up to the town. They go to talk to the town.
Yeah, they
because
have
the
like a little
townspeople.
gathering.
Yeah,
outside
they're gathering outside the town. They're not in
Organize
the town.
some entertainment, as Silverdale says.
Yeah. So the monster is like locked up in a cage. It's clearly alive.
It's in the back of a pickup truck in a shark cage with some tarps over it.
Yeah.
A shark cage match.
Yeah. And people are cheering because they caught the monster.
Silverdale shows up, and it's fucking crazy. You would have thought, like, fucking Robert Downey Jr. just showed up or
You would have
something.
thought the president showed up. So he's like, yeah, it was threatening the lives of little children and women. No one else. Just little children and women. That's all
It really
he
makes you
mentions.
feel like this is a bit of a cult when just how much...
Yeah, this is clearly a cult.
Yeah.
So...
Now it's the Comstock Historical Society is taking custody of the monster.
Mm-hmm. And they're going to put it in the most secret part of town so that way they can do secret science on it.
And they're also going to have it be a tourist attraction.
Even though it's supposed to be a secret.
Yeah, and Doc Clemens says, you're not going to make a circus out of a scientific discovery.
Right. But
he is pissed about it because he was told he was going to get to keep doing science on it.
Yeah, but the thing is,
Study
they
it.
keep saying, like, yeah, we're going to keep it a secret and sell tourist tickets. The secret. What?
And everyone's cheering about
They're cheering
They
about
still haven't
it.
shown the monster to the people yet. It's still under the tarp.
Right. So, Charles, or I'm sorry, Mr. Silver, whatever, I keep calling him Charles, sorry,
That's fine.
says that Mr. Wright has given the town unlimited money. Unlimited money to start the town's mines for historical reasons. But half the town sees directly through him, starts calling him a monster. They call him a liar.
They say lies, lies, lie. They say lies and liar a lot.
They just start screaming. But it's only like, it's like the townspeople do, but the 601 Society are like still behind
The
him.
townsfolk see what's going on, and they turn on him.
They turn on him. And they show people the monster because they're like, look, it's the monster. Look what he
brawl
did.
breaks out.
Well,
Cowboy fight.
Yeah, there's a cowboy fight. But they show the people the monster because they're like, well, maybe if we show it the monster, maybe they'll...
Behold, the monster.
Because they're trying to calm people down, I guess. Like, they're trying to divert their attention. I don't know. This is really confusing, y'all.
This movie, this is where it gets...
Really...
It's confusing before.
This is very confusing
Yeah.
because... I didn't realize, we almost had to watch this twice because it was so weird because I didn't realize it was the townspeople yelling at him because then suddenly the townspeople start like throwing trash at the monster.
They start saying kill it and they chant at it and they...
And then they start just running down the hill. Like, they throw trash at the monster, but then they start running down the hill. Then the 601 people just start throwing trash at the people running away.
Yeah.
I think
heckling and attacking them,
and so then
and Philip gets shot.
Oh yeah,
he gets shot by someone.
We don't know.
And Silverdale starts yelling, "Make them all pay!"
So they just start throwing trash at people. Like, they're not even shooting at them.
And they start pushing cars down the side of the hill.
They do. They start trying to kill people with cars, but
these cars are already burnt out and destroyed.
Yeah. So then somebody makes the mistake of pushing the truck the monster is in.
Mariposa also got hurt somehow.
Oh yeah, she gets hurt. Eddie's there, whatever. She's fine. They start to shove the monster down. What was the line about, oh no, the truck is full of gas, it'll explode?
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Oh, okay.
Nailed it.
Somebody yells that. I don't know if it's the doctor, but somebody yells that. Barnstable's running down the hill.
The truck slowly rolls down the hill about halfway.
And it just explodes.
Explodes.
And Charles is yelling at Barnstable, and I can't tell what he's yelling, but he's yelling at Barnstable.
He's just yelling. I have part of his quote here.
What's he yell?
An eye for an eye. Control the masses. You hear me, Barnstable? I've beaten you. I am the eternal judge of events.
Oh my God. I just realized the Godmonster of Indian Flats is not the monster. It's Charles.
It's Silverdale.
Oh. It just hit me that the Godmonster was never the monster. The whole time it was Silverdale. Oh my God. So wow. I finally figured it out.
If the truck explodes, the monster's dead. There's nothing left of him.
And then it just cuts to some sheep eating some grass. And that's the end of the movie.
Some phosphorus rises from the ground.
And that's the end of the movie.
It's a bit of a weird thing. Is there a new monster born? The end.
The end. That's the end of the movie.
Credits roll and happy, upbeat ragtime music plays.
Yeah.
The town has been taken over by a dictator.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know whatever happens to the town. We don't know what happens to Barnstable. We don't know anything.
What happens to Eddie or the doctor or nothing.
No, that's the end. Wow, we've been going a while.
Yeah.
Nah, a lot of it cut out, though.
Also, the word Godmonster was never said in this movie.
It was never said. Like I said, it just hit me that the Godmonster was not the sheep thing. It was Silverdale who lorded over the town like a god. He was a god monster. Oh my God, I unlocked the secret. Okay. So that movie was fucking awful and confusing, and I hate you. Not really.
I liked this more than you did. There was actually a few points of this that I do like.
There's this movie has a goddamn 3 on fucking IMDb. Like, this shit's bad, y'all.
I mean,
Don't watch
it's definitely
this.
Not great. There's a lot of production issues.
Don't fucking watch this movie. Don't do it.
If you were watching this for a monster movie, no,
it's not
absolutely
a monster
not.
movie. It's not even a Western. It's
more of a Western than a monster movie.
It's fucking nothing.
I feel like there are points in this movie that, given a little more time and maybe a more competent director, you actually could have had a decent, conspiracy movie.
I think
they're trying to take over this town but sell it and all that. Cut out the monster completely.
You could put the monster in the movie because, again, they tried to. Oops, I hit my pop filter again. They tried to use the monster to be like, yeah, this is definitely the God monster. Like, I get what they were going for. If you took this script and you handed it to a good script writer and somebody like James Cameron, Spielberg, a really good director with a really good script, I think you could make this movie work.
You could probably do something.
You could do something with it.
You could do something a little weird with the monster. Maybe if you got someone like James Gunn or Taika Waititi, something wacky.
Something real weird.
You have something a little weird and different.
I think you could do it because the monster actually makes sense in the context because they're trying to be like, oh yeah, the monster, the God monster.
The actual monster itself is
not the monster.
It hurt 1, maybe 2 people.
Right.
Whereas Silverdale, he ran everyone in his town out.
Right.
It's just him in the society, and they're going to make a shitload of money.
Yeah. Honestly, thinking about it, like what the movie actually was, like the concept of the movie is actually really good. It's just executed very, very poorly. Not the worst script I've ever seen. Not even the worst movie I've ever seen. It just has a really poor grasp on execution. I feel, like I said, give it a half-decent script. Give it a really competent director. And if you remade this movie now, you could do it pretty well.
Yeah.
I feel like you could remake this movie and make it make sense.
It wasn't a good movie.
No.
But it was not a god-awful movie.
No, I just liked it worse than you did, but like reflecting on it a little more now, I'm coming back like, it's not as bad as I thought it was. It's just really poorly made and poorly acted.
It has that problem of, some movies are, you get the good movies, and sometimes you get the bad movies, but they're so bad they're entertaining. Mm-hmm. This one, a lot of it wasn't so good it's bad.
No, it was just bad.
It was just boring and slow at points. A lot of different characters and plot points that don't go places, but the overarching theme of it, I don't necessarily think is bad.
I think the theme of the movie, of him being the Godmonster and using the monster to kind of direct you towards that being the real monster, when in reality it's Silver or whatever, is great.
But we also only see that for about 5 minutes at the end.
Right. If we saw more of that, and we saw more of that theming, and we saw the fact that, Philip tells us this, it wasn't a lie, but we don't know that until the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
It would be better, but it's marred in a terrible script with bad acting and things that happen for no reason.
Bad production. Awful production at times.
Oh, it's bad. It's some of the worst production work I've seen in a film. But the thing is, there's actually some good cinematography direction at times, where clearly somebody thought out a transition and really tried. There are more times that you can tell somebody really wanted to try, and it almost makes it.
And there's some of the actors, like the guy playing Clemens, he's going at it for a good chunk of his role.
He really is. Frederick Hobbs, like I said, the writer, the director, the producer, had an idea that was a good idea that just didn't come together. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that this movie probably had no budget. I can't find any of that information. Like, I've tried to look, but it was 1973. We just don't have that information. This was clearly a very, very low budget film. There's no big names in this movie. It falls so flat, but it could have been great with the right re-editing the script a few times, the right direction. You could have had a good movie. And that's kind of what frustrates me the most about it. The theme is so good. You could have had a solid film, and you didn't.
Yeah.
But you want to talk about a solid film? We've watched 2 god-awful goddamn movies.
I guess before we get into the next movie.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you want? What are you going to say?
Actually, no, you kind of just did give your final thoughts on it. Never mind.
I did.
Okay. Cut that out.
Okay, you're fine. So I want to watch a good movie. I love this movie.
So what are we watching next, Kaitlyn?
Hold on. I got you.
There's
a lead in, you bastard.
No, I don't know.
So the absolute Japanese great Ishiro Honda directed this movie. It is not Godzilla. This movie is actually much, much later than Godzilla. This movie's from 1970. As you know, Godzilla was 1952, 53. We are going to watch Space Amoeba, which is a fantastic film by Ishiro Honda. It is made by Toho. I think you'll like it.
I do like the Toho. I've seen several Godzilla movies from them.
Yeah,
And I do like their stuff.
The Space Amoeba, I feel like it is a very, very solid Ishiro Honda film. It's one of the last ones he did. A lot of people have kind of overlooked it because it was late in his career. It is a kaiju movie.
I do like me a good kaiju movie.
But it's not quite a traditional kaiju movie. It's very different. He really went for it. Like, you could tell this was a passion piece for him. I love this movie. I've seen it a few times. We're going to have to watch it in Japanese, I believe. I don't know if there's an English cut or if it's any good. I've never watched the English cut. So if y'all want to watch this, it is on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon, go watch it. I don't think it's that expensive to rent either. If you need to rent it, I think it's only a couple dollars because it is from 1970.
Yeah, older movies are cheaper usually.
Yeah,
you can actually rent Godmonster on YouTube for $2 instead of the usual $4.
Yeah, but I don't even think you have to do that. You can literally just watch it for free.
I know.
Space Amoeba does have a 5 out of 10 on IMDb, but I think it should be better than that. A lot of these kaiju movies are rated lower, I think, because I view them as, I'm a huge kaiju fan. I watch many kaiju. I collect kaiju. I collect giant robots. Like, this is my passion. So I think for me as a kaiju fan, I rate it higher versus like your casual movie fan who's going to rate it lower.
And that's something we've even seen with like the more modern Godzilla movies. Like critical movie critics will, as a like movie critics will say like, oh, the plot was weird and just monsters punching each other. But like the fan reaction is just like, yeah, but I want to watch monsters punch each other.
Right, but even at that, we're going to go back to King of the Monsters, which was the movie before Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah, the one from 2016 or so.
Yeah. Your average moviegoer hated that film. They thought it was absolute dog shit. People like me and the Reddit community and the real hardcore kaiju community loved that film. We thought it was magical because it tied together plots from like 6 different films into one, to where we could like go like, oh, that's from this film. Oh, that's from this film. And it really set up for what Godzilla vs. Kong was going to be. There were fan theories coming out of it, like, oh, are we finally going to get Bagon? Like, what are we going to have here? I'm very excited for Space Amoeba. I think I'm going to like it more than you have. I've watched this movie many times, but I think it's perfect, and it's finally a good movie. I'm tired of watching these, like, bullshit, awful ones.
I might pick a bullshit awful one next, or maybe not. I don't know.
Oh, God.
We'll find out.
I was between 3 movies for this one, but I wanted to go Ishiro Honda and tease y'all and not do Godzilla because we ain't doing that for a long time. We will do it eventually. I want to go through at some point all of the Godzilla films. We've decided that this podcast is pre-2000, but I think there's going to be some times where we do break that rule because Final Wars goes through, I believe, 2004. And then I do want to watch Shin Godzilla, which was much later.
Shin Godzilla is awesome.
That movie's more of a political thriller than it is a monster movie, much kind of like this film was. But I really like it. A lot of people called it boring, but it was more about bureaucracy in Japan than it was about monster films. And I really loved it, personally.
Also, if we're allowed to occasionally break the before 2000s rule, that means we can watch Battlefield Earth.
Yeah, that's part of the reason.
It's not even really a monster movie. That's more of a sci-fi thing.
No, that's a sci-fi movie. This isn't entirely all monster films. This is more B sci-fi films. But a lot of them happen to be creature features because I love creature features. Like, I want to do Creature from the Black Lagoon at some point. I want to do, like, The Blob, the Steve McQueen one.
Yeah. I remember I tried watching that when I was about 12 or so.
Ooh, that movie's boring.
Oh, yeah. I left the room after about 10 minutes.
We're going to watch it at some point.
My mom and sister kept watching, and then later on I was like, how was that movie? And they were just like, ugh.
Yeah, no. There's definitely some big films I want to do in the future, but I kind of want to save them for either special episodes or when we have more than 4 people that listen to this podcast.
we do appreciate those who are listening, especially if you listen this far.
Oh, absolutely.
Podcasts live and die by reputation and all that. So,
yeah.
If you want, give us a shout out, give us a link, let your friends know.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Rate us on fucking iTunes or whatever. Are we there? Are we
I'm
on
not sure if we're
Apple
on
Podcasts?
We're through Anchor. I think we are on Apple. We're on Google Podcasts. We're on Spotify.
Wherever that you like.
On Podcast.
I don't fucking remember.
I'll double check.
Yeah, well, we can fix this and edit this part back in later. But, if you want to leave us a review, we'll read it out for you. We don't plan for this podcast to ever get big, but, we would like some people to listen to it. It's a hobby, but it's fun.
Yeah.
You get to watch shitty movies with your wife who loves shitty movies and collects shitty memorabilia from shitty movies, literally.
I get to make you watch shitty movies.
Oh, God. I get to watch you watch good movies. And
I'm not returning the favor.
I hate you.
Well, maybe.
I've got some bad ones. Ooh, can we watch Robot Jacks again?
In the future. We watched that one pretty recently.
We did. All right. I think we're going to end this episode.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for listening, especially if you made it all the way to the end. If you get to hear me say thank you.
Yeah.
Then thank you. So, yeah, that was Godmonster of Indian Flats. Not as not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but that's kind of a bad thing about it.
Horrible movie. Great idea, terrible execution.
Yep.
This has been It Came From 20,000 Podcasts. That was a really bad take of that, but fuck it, we're keeping it.
Thanks for listening, everyone. I've been Gus.
I'm Kaitlyn.
And we'll see you next time for Space Amoeba.
Yeah.
Is it the Space Amoeba?
No, it's just Space Amoeba.